If only businessmen can afford something, it makes it kind of sterile. If it can get into the hands of artists and musicians and 12-year-old kids, that's what really excites us. So we kind of set up, Lisa set a standard, something. It blew my mind when I saw it. God, this is incredibly great and easy to use, but it was a little too expensive. And so we set out to capture the greatness of Lisa in something affordable to individuals rather than corporations.
Welcome to CultCast, the best 30-plus minute album conversation you're going to hear all week long. I'm your host, Eric Elijah. Join me today, the strut, the swagger, the bravado. He's like Mick Jagger of the Apple journalist community. The founder of Cult of Mac, Leander Caney, is here.
Hello.
Do they do that little rooster thing when you walk around the office?
All
you
the
should
time.
practice that. Also with us, his darts are sharp, but his sighs, they're so soft. Managing editor of Cult of Mac, Lewis Wallace is here. Give me one of those big, beautiful sighs. My blood pressure just went down about 10 points, Lewis. You should start your own.
It's got to be easier than yoga.
Your own ASMR channel.
Yeah.
I know one guy that would listen to it. He's sitting in your office. Although he's got some sick erotic fetish with ASMR, so it might make things weird.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to even get near it.
I wouldn't. So, welcome to the CultCast, everyone. You're probably thinking to yourself, there's no way they found anything to talk about this week. And you know what? You're close. We did find some stories, though. In fact, we got a big one here. This is the story about how Apple reportedly dropped iCloud encryption because of FBI pressure. Did you think your iCloud backups were safe from the NSA and the FBI? You sucker. There's probably some FBI agent. He's looking at your nudies right now, and he doesn't even have a warrant. So we'll talk about that. Also, if you have AirPods Pro, and many of you I know do and love them, you may have noticed that the sound quality and the sound isolation and cancellation has changed. Well, it looks like this is the result of some changes that Apple made to the product, and some people are really unhappy with the product now. And so we'll tell you a little bit about that. Also, big story. I should have led with this one. What was I thinking? We got a real sensual story. In fact, you may not want to listen to this with the kids in the room. This one is about Tim Cook in the shower, and I'm not even joking. We'll tell you how you can shower just like Tim Cook does. There's a product that you need that's coming to the market that he has, and you're going to want it too. We'll tell you all about it. We're going to wrap up with an all-new What We're Into. And if you were tuned in last week, I teased you just a little bit of a tease about the content that I've been watching on Netflix. Well, I've been going crazy on Netflix. So they gave me a free trial, and I signed up for it, as I was saying last week, because it was free and it was a good opportunity to catch up on The Walking Dead, which I haven't watched in a while. I haven't been a part of Netflix in years, but the last 2 weeks, I have just been binging one show after another. Some of the best shows that I've seen in many months, and one of the worst shows I've ever seen in my entire life. I watched them all in the last 2 weeks on Netflix. So I'll be pitching you one of my favorite shows right now. In fact, it's over. I just finished the entire season in like 3 days. And of course, Leander's going to have an unbelievable pick. He's promised. He's on his computer now looking for it because he doesn't even know what it is. And then Lewis has something too, which I'm sure is going to be something that you're going to want to hear about. And we'll wrap up the show with that. Before we dive into the first news story here, let me give a very hearty thank you to Squarespace for supporting this episode. Squarespace, a product I love, a product that I use. And if you need a website, you need to check out squarespace.com/cultcast. They're constantly making Squarespace better. They're dedicated to improving their service. And they've just added a bunch of new features for their Squarespace stores. So if you have a Squarespace website, you can also start a store. And they've added this related products feature. So if you have a store, now when someone clicks on a product, it will show related products to your customers to help them find other things that they might like. There's a wait list. So if you sell out of something, your customers can be notified when that thing is back in stock. They have spreadsheet bulk editing now. They have limited availability labels, so you could slap a, hey, you better get this soon because it's almost gone, and once it's gone, you're never going to get it again. Just think about the dollars they're going to flood in when you put that limited availability label on your product. Get out of here. Also, they have product variant images, so you can have different images assigned to different kind of product variances. And also, brand new, they have a point of sale integration. And if you ever sell at any kind of live environment, like if you go to conventions, like I used to do this with Might Tees all the time. I would go to Comic-Con and we would sell tons of stuff at Comic-Con and also at PAX. And the problem is that you'd be selling your stock, but your stock wouldn't integrate with your store. And so then you'd have to go home and update everything manually. It was a terror. It was one of the things I hated about doing conventions and stuff because it was so much work. Well, Squarespace now has point of sale support, so you can integrate your Square store and make sales in real time, and then your stock will automatically be synced in real time as you make those sales. So you're not going to have all the headache of having to do it afterwards. Just constantly building in new features just like those ones to make your life easier, to make it easier to run a website and build a website. Check it out, squarespace.com/cultcast. Use code cultcast at checkout. You'll get 10% off your first purchase, squarespace.com/cultcast. Do you like that little mnemonic that I used? I just made that up right now. It's kind of like very radio-esque, wasn't it?
It is, yeah.
CultCast. And we should get someone to record one of those for us. Okay, let's talk about those nude pictures that you have in your iCloud, Lewis, that the FBI has been reviewing. You want to tell us about those? Do you want to lead and tell us all about those? Well, let me tell people the story first so they're not confused on how the FBI got all those weird nudes that you keep in your backups. So many of you know that Apple always touts how secure their devices are. And you know that they're encrypted, and even if Apple wants to get into your device, they can't because they don't have the ability to do so. Well, I bet you thought that level of security was built throughout all of Apple's products. Turns out it's not. Apple ditched plans to let users fully encrypt backups of their devices using iCloud. A new report from Reuters claims Apple reportedly made the decision after the FBI complained to them that this would make it harder to carry out future investigations. Reuters says that had Apple instituted its proposed iCloud encryption system, it would no longer have a key able to unlock the encrypted iCloud data. As a result, it would not have been able to churn over material to authorities in a readable form, even if they were ordered by a court. Currently, law enforcement can request data from iCloud backups. I bet you didn't know that. Apple periodically reveals how many of these requests it receives from governments, and Apple can hand over your decrypted iCloud data if subpoenaed. Had Apple instituted its new approach, this would no longer have been possible. It seems that Apple was reportedly working on this encryption feature 2 years ago, and they had a standoff with the FBI regarding whether or not Apple would unlock an iPhone as part of a shooting investigation. And around the same time as when Apple decided to drop plans for the iCloud encryption system, one ex-Apple employee was reportedly said that legal killed it for reasons that you can imagine. They decided they weren't going to poke the bear anymore, he said, referring to the FBI. What do you think about this, Leander? What do you think's going on here? Does this bother you?
Well, yeah, but I'm really skeptical that Reuters got it right.
Uh-huh.
I think that I think they might have been conflating a couple of things. They said they had sources from Apple, inside Apple, and some ex-Apple employees, and also sources inside the FBI. And if you read carefully their report, I think it sounds like the claims that Apple killed it for the FBI are coming from the FBI, and not except for this, with the exception for this one guy that's quoted in here from Apple, and I don't think that he was. Like in the loop. It's just that Apple's, and Tim Cook has had such a strong stance for privacy and for encryption and they were willing to go to court over this after the San Bernardino shooting. And I just, I don't think that I'm really skeptical that they've reversed their position. I think, at the time of the San Bernardino thing, when it was about to go to court, Cook said he wanted the courts to decide this. Like, so he wanted a fight. He wanted to go all the way, through the court system, so that there was a legal precedent set. And for them to turn around and quietly, ditch a huge feature like this, I find really hard to believe. I think the far simpler explanation is the fact is that they get requests all the time from users who can't, who've lost a device or something like that, and they want to get access to their data that's been backed up to iCloud. And if it's encrypted, no one is going to be able to, and if they forget their password, no one is going to be able to recover this. Even Apple couldn't recover it, right? So they keep it purposely unencrypted in order to facilitate easy, backups for people who want to get access to their iCloud data and have forgotten their passwords. And I think this is the reason they've done it. Even though they declined a comment, which I think is a mistake. I think they should, come out and spell this out. But if you read those interviews, there's been a couple of interviews with Tim Cook that have surfaced over the last, couple of years. One with Der Spiegel, and he talked to another outlet where he was talking about, saying that they were working on this feature, and he actually explicitly mentioned that as a reason why they haven't implemented it already.
Oh, he did say that, and he talked about the fact that people would request their iCloud data?
Yes. And
so, I didn't even know that was a service that Apple offered. So you can just contact them and say, "Oh, I don't remember my password. Can you give me all my data?" And they'll do that for you.
I don't know, but I imagine this is the kind of thing that happens at the Genius Bar, right, or whatever. You go in and
it's like some unspoken service that they have available if circumstances call for it. Like maybe if a loved one passes away and you want their backup or something.
Right.
Huh. Yeah, it seems strange. Hearing you describe it makes me think, okay, so there is a business case to actually keep the iCloud backups unlocked. Because before, what it seemed like to me was Apple was going to have their cake and eat it too. And by that, I mean they can promote how secure their hardware is. That's the front and center piece of the marketing, right? No one can get your data. Not even Apple can get it off your iPhone. But secretly, if you back it up, well, that part we can access. And they don't want to get regulated by the government. And they know that if they keep pushing this, if they keep, quote unquote, poking the bear, eventually Congress is going to come along and they're going to say, hey, what's going on with this situation? Maybe you need to be regulated and we need to mandate that you put a back door in place. So this kind of seemed like the best of both worlds. Apple got to save face because they can still say that no one can get into your device but you. But if you happen to back it up, that backup is something they can access. It's kind of esoteric. People don't really understand backups. They don't understand that those backups, where they live or how they're secured. You think that they're secured because you need a password, but really they're not secured, and Apple can just give them to the FBI if they're subpoenaed. And so it's a win-win for TC. He's under that, high-tech shower. He's scrubbing, he's lathering up, and he's singing to himself because he knows he just pulled one over on you. What do you think about that theory?
I think it's a bit conspiratorial because, a whole bunch of your data is end-to-end encrypted. All your passwords, your health data, all the sensitive stuff, I think even weird stuff like Safari bookmarks and things. But
well, my Safari bookmarks aren't weird. I see that you're probably talking about your own or perhaps Lewis Wallace's, which are real weird. Yeah.
So I don't think it would be, I don't think it would. It's not like a technical issue. I think it's like, like I said, it's a sort of ease of use. Like, with when you back up to through iTunes, if you back up your iPhone through iTunes, the default is for it to be not encrypted. And of course you can check a box and it'll be end-to-end encrypted. So you can do encrypted local backups. Same with Time Machine, right? But the stuff that's going to the iCloud, I think, from what I could tell from these couple of interviews that I read with Tim Cook, it sounded like there was it was a sort of it was just going to cause them a lot less headaches for customers if they it caused them a lot more headaches for customers if they encrypted it.
You know what else I heard? And this is kind of a strange topic to bring up, but I do think it's interesting, is Apple scans your iCloud photo library and looks for child porn. Did you guys hear this?
What?
Yes. I was reading a story about this. And, it's hard to make an argument against stopping child porn. You don't want to make that argument. I don't want to make that argument. But it is also a little strange that Apple quietly is scanning your photo library, and it just kind of makes you think, well, what else are they looking for? You know, if they find something weird, I mean, clearly the algorithm isn't going to be smart enough to identify everything. It probably can do some stuff, and maybe then it will bring that account to a user's attention, and then you're going to have someone looking through your account. That's generally how these algorithms work, right? They're like the front lines. In fact, I have a friend who has friends at Facebook, and he says there's just teams of people who have to watch the most horrific types of videos you would not believe just to verify that they're bad. And they're all going to counseling and stuff because they have to watch this content on a day in, day out basis. But what happens is the Facebook algorithm will look through stuff. It will find things that it thinks are items that shouldn't be on its platform, and then oftentimes a human has to go in and watch the content and verify that it's bad. Can you imagine the types of unbelievable horrors that await you in the videos that don't belong on Facebook? I mean, the type of stuff that people try to upload. So Apple's doing something similar. Were you guys not aware of this?
I hadn't heard this, no.
Yep. So
I vaguely remember hearing something, but are you sure?
Well, I'm not sure, but I was reading an article. Well, hold on now. I read an article that said that they do this. Is it true? I don't know. But I'm not just making it up. I was reading an article that said that they are actively doing this. I'm gonna have to see if I can find this article for the show notes so that people can
Why don't you do it after
ignore
after
it
the show?
and not. Actually, hold on. Let's just have let's have a moment of silence for 5 to 6 minutes where no one speaks, and I'll just be typing.
Click, 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 click. Well, I was going to say, if it's kind of a child porn, I'm definitely going to get flagged because there's like tons of pictures of my kids naked on my photo
Oh, you know
library.
what? That's a great point. I have naked pictures of my kids too. I mean,
in the bath and the bathtub,
yeah,
and messing around
exactly.
the garden. And my son used to strip off all the time. He was famous for running down the street naked.
Leander, you didn't just confess to having child porn in your photo
It's not
library,
child
right?
porn. It's pictures of naked children. I mean, I think there's a big.
it's not child porn. It's naked kids. Wait, no, wait.
You didn't just make it worse, did you?
Maybe. Okay, well, you know what I'm saying, right? These are pictures of my children. They're not, I'm not uploading these to some awful child porn site, although I probably should.
No, they're for your. Right. Okay. Never mind. I'm not going to take that any further.
No,
Yeah,
you're right about this. This came out of the CES thing where Jane Horvath from Apple, Chief Privacy Officer, said, "This is a quote. We are utilizing some technologies to help screen for child sexual abuse material."
Okay, there you go.
I missed this. I was out of the country and not paying any
Expect a
attention.
knock on your door by the FBI by the week's end here, Leander.
Yeah.
But also, like, what if you're a grown man, but you go full dolphin and you have very adolescent features? You know, it's like those go trigger
Is
the
that
system
you? Is that
too.
you? Are you trying to talk about yourself?
No. I'm just saying, if you were a person who liked to go full dolphin and you also didn't have manly features like myself, that could flag the system too.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And then it probably goes up the chain, and Tim Cook has to look at it. He's like, I don't know.
There must be all kinds of stuff in
kid.
people's private photo libraries, right? You know, like.
Can you only imagine what goes on in people's photo libraries on their phones?
Yeah. I can't imagine this.
You're like, I'm thinking about it right now. Oh, baby. Yeah, I mean, it's just like all those celeb hacks where all these pictures of nudes just get dumped out on the internet. I mean, people they don't understand that their stuff is just being uploaded to the cloud as soon as they snap it. It's all going somewhere. It's not staying on their device. I don't know how that makes me feel. I don't know. I guess I've become more paranoid about privacy the more I've learned about the kinds of activities happening at Google and other communication platforms like Twitter and Facebook and stuff, the more I think, God, maybe I do care about privacy. Maybe I don't want them looking through all my stuff, or to have some agency able to access your stuff without even subpoenaing it or something. I don't know. I guess one day I had an epiphany when I was driving in my car. I've told this story on the show before, and I was using Google Maps to go to my doctor's office. And it occurred to me on my way there, oh my gosh, now Google knows who my doctor is. And that is super weird. That there's just some things that you want to keep private. Your full dolphin pictures being one, and your doctor being a close second, I would say.
Why-
Do you want Google knowing those things about you? I just don't. So now I use Apple Maps for everything. Ever since then, I started using Apple Maps for everything, even though it tries to have me drive off a cliff at least once a week.
Right.
I feel like it's worth the trade-off. And it does get me lost all the time.
God.
Even today. It's not as bad as it used to be, but it's the data is not nearly as good as Google's. That's all I got to say about that. Should we move on?
Making me sad.
Yeah. Well, this will make you happy. Actually, I take that back. This might not make you happy. Your AirPods Pro are getting worse, Lewis. I don't know if you heard this. There is some firmware that Apple recently released that users are saying are making their AirPods sound worse, although that seems to be a debatable point. Some people don't notice they sound worse, but are reducing the noise cancellation so that they just don't work as well at canceling noise. Lewis, would you care to take us away on this story so I don't prattle on and do the whole thing involuntarily as I'm doing right now?
Yeah. So a bunch of people are complaining online saying that their AirPods Pro are not blocking out background noise as effectively as they once did. And at least one outfit that tested this appears to confirm that the noise cancellation is as good as it used. Excuse me, is not as good as it used to be. Wow, got a full Bernie Sanders going. Excuse me.
Never go full Bernie. Never go full Bernie.
Some people say they noticed this change after this recent firmware update, version 2C54, which rolled out in December. Other people say noise cancellation got worse for them after the snappily named 2B588 update rolled out in November. And, it's not just like one person. There's a bunch of people in Reddit and Apple support threads talking about it. And this test carried out by this company. I haven't heard of this company, but
You haven't heard of Ratings? Oh man, if you had shopped for a TV, yeah, it's pronounced Ratings. If you had shopped for a new TV in the last 2 years, you would know who they were.
Well, I have not.
Yeah, well, apparently not, because they're like the go-to for TV testing. Apparently they do testing of other stuff too.
So you fully trust them?
I trust them. Their ratings or their reviews are really in depth. They do all sorts of crazy. So the website that we're talking about is RTAING. How do you spell it?
RTINGS.com.
Yeah. Okay, there you go. And they do all sorts of really in-depth reviews on TVs, so LCDs, OLEDs. In fact, I would say they're probably at this point maybe the premier place to go to see TV tests, and then they give you their opinion. They give you your opinion as well after you read the review on which TVs are best. And so they're really popular for figuring out which TVs to buy and different price categories and that type of thing. Sorry, continue.
I see.
I didn't mean to hijack you.
Well, so, just to talk about what they did, I mean, so they updated their original rating of this. Their first thing was like, oh, this really impressive noise isolation for these tiny little AirPods Pro, right? And back in December, they tested them, after receiving reports that the noise cancellation had gotten worse after that 2B588 update. They retested it, and they said they couldn't tell any difference, really. Nothing noticeable. Then, last week, I guess, or 2 weeks to 110, whenever that is, nearly 2 weeks ago, they updated them to 2C54. They retested them, and they said that the results showed a fairly significant drop in isolation performance, primarily in the bass range. This is what Ratings said. This means that with ANC turned on, these headphones won't do nearly as good a job blocking out the low engine rumbles of planes or buses as they did before this update.
Huh.
So, there's two things going on that, first off, you really, like, these updates happen in the background, right? You don't really know that it's happening or whatever. You can go and check. We have a how-to on our site about how to do that. But I question how easy it is for a normal person to check this, right?
You mean to check the firmware version or to know if they're...
to like A/B it. Because when do you know... When does it happen, right? I mean, how do you know when it happened? How do you know exactly when it? I mean, obviously you could figure that out, but how many people are paying attention to that?
Well, that's why I thought it would be interesting to bring this story up, because normally this wouldn't be something that we would even talk about. But if you have your AirPods Pro and you've been thinking that they don't work as well, but you can't quite put your finger on it, well, this might be why. Is because Apple made some change in the firmware, and you are not just imagining it. Your AirPods Pro are not working as well as they were before.
Have you noticed any difference? I have.
Well, I got rid of my AirPods Pro.
Oh, God.
you were gone, so
I keep forgetting. I
they
can't keep
hurt
track
my
of
ear holes, man.
Yeah,
My
it's-
ear holes couldn't handle it anymore. But what about you, Leander?
my ear holes.
I can't tell. I mean, I wouldn't be able to tell. You know, I don't think like Lewis says. You know, like if I can't remember how they sounded last week.
Well, hold on a second, Lewis. You've got the golden ears.
Well, what I'm saying is, how could you can't A/B that, right? It's kind of like, oh, I seem to remember it worked better.
Well, I think the whole point is that people noticed that their AirPods Pro noise cancellation was working significantly less effectively than it was before.
And
isn't that the whole point?
I mean, maybe that's true. Maybe
Yeah.
people did.
It was supposed to be obvious.
I never noticed. Did you? I mean, honestly, like the times that the noise cancellation matters to me it's when I'm on an airplane.
Yeah.
I've flown exactly once with them. So I don't know. I don't have any idea
So
if it
you have nothing
worked
to compare
better.
it to. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and that's my point. Is like, I mean, day to day, like the noise cancellation in my kitchen. I don't know. It's not really canceling too much. You know what I'm
What's
saying?
going on in your kitchen? Yeah.
Right. So
But you know,
okay,
your wife.
fair
You know,
point.
did you hear more of your wife?
Yeah. Is her,
my wife seems more annoying these days. Maybe the AirPods aren't working as well.
all of a sudden I can hear my wife. Why is that? I spent $300 on these.
I'm sure she doesn't listen to the podcast, so I think I'm safe. Anyway, I mean, I wonder how they tested this stuff, and I mean, maybe it's true. If it is true, then I'm sure Apple will probably change it back. I mean,
I hope so.
I mean,
Yeah.
why would they not? I just my own personal experience with these things is I just wore them a bunch on some airplanes. It was awesome. It was actually kind of to me like mind blowing when I would take the things out of my ears. It's like, holy crap, the airplane is so loud. And when I was sitting there watching the movie on there, it was awesome. I mean, it didn't have any of that like, but the instant you take them out of your ears, it's like it's oppressive. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think they work well. I don't really have that much to compare them with. I mean, I use some bulky ones, you know, not as good ones, whatever, for a while. But I mean, I just don't fly that often. And when I do, you know, I had been using regular AirPods. Those work okay on a plane, but the AirPods Pro, awesome.
See, I would be the wrong person to gauge how well they work on an airplane regardless, because I'm usually sitting in my seat, knuckles white, frozen in terror the entire flight, and the last thing I'm paying attention to is how my AirPods Pro sound. I'm more worried about seeing the pilot jump out of the side of the plane and seeing his parachute open as the plane careens towards a mountain. As the older I've gotten, the more terrified I've become of flying.
Really?
It all started when I saw this movie. I swear this was the beginning of it. I saw this movie, I don't even know when this movie came out, called Final Destination. And the main centerpiece of the movie is this plane crash that happens. It was like the most graphic plane crash I've ever seen. And ever since I saw that movie, any little blip, any little piece of turbulence, immediately my face turns white as a ghost, my knuckles grip the seats as hard as I can, and I just sit there frozen in terror until it stops. And then, of course, there's the flights to Las Vegas, which have some of the worst turbulence I've experienced.
Las Vegas is horrible, yeah.
Oh my gosh. I remember one time I was on a plane and we were heading into CES, I think, and almost the entire flight was pretty turbulent free. I was like, thank God, this actually went pretty well. And then we were descending on our way into Las Vegas, and then boom! Right-hand side of the plane just gets hit with this whole gust of wind. The whole plane lurches to the left and starts going, and the whole thing is shaking. And of course, I'm just sitting there, you know, my knuckles are my fingers are
Praying
absolutely
wildly,
white.
right?
You know,
Sweat pouring off your brow. Yeah, Vegas is horrible. There's all those horrible side winds too. There's a really super strong crosswinds, so you have to kind of land sideways. It's horrible.
I do hate that crap.
Yeah, me too.
I
In fact, I'm
recommend
stressing myself out just talking
couple
about it right
beers,
now.
some noise canceling headphones. Honestly, the
Is that
noise
the
canceling headphones
solution?
kind of help because it puts that like ooh, you're on an airplane, which is kind of a stressful sound.
It is. It is.
It helps put that in the background. So does the beer too, but
A couple of the beers. And then some AirPods Pro. That's a secret, huh?
yeah,
And
beer
some
pods
Valium.
Pro. That's what we need.
I just wish that they could just inject something into me and then just knock me out. So I either wake up dead or I wake up in the other place. That would be my optimal scenario.
My brother wanted a startup. It's like you check in at the airport to this like clinic and they put you out under anesthetic.
Sedation flying.
I might be willing to do that. I'm not even joking. Just knock me out
and then wake you up the
and
other
wake
end.
me up when I'm there. Yeah.
Like an
I mean,
operation.
honestly, why not? You know, it's like, why do I need to be awake for this?
Wow. They could probably save money. They could stack the bodies really tightly. As long as the
They could
drugs
put
didn't
you in your
cost that
travel
much.
tube.
Yeah, put 800 people in a little bitty plane. All
You
of
can
them
lay me on
unconscious.
top of whoever you want.
And
yeah.
then they'd have to serve drinks or food.
Exactly.
Or even show
clean out
movies.
toilets.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just poop all over yourself and the people below you.
This is going to be great. Caney Air, come on.
Caney Air, sign me up. I'm ready to go. Yeah, that would actually be a dream come true. I'm almost Whoopi Goldberg level. You guys heard that she doesn't even fly anymore. She just takes a bus everywhere she goes. She has like the Whoopi bus. And if she needs to go somewhere, she just takes a bus there because she won't fly. She's even worse than I am. Jeez, I thought I was.
Well, for fear or because of carbon?
No, out of fear of flying. She's so terrified of flying that she hasn't flown in years.
Huh.
She just rides a bus.
A bus?
So she takes a bus.
Like a Greyhound?
I think she has her own bus, or she charters a bus.
Oh.
I mean, she's a millionaire. She's not riding the Greyhound.
I was going to say.
There's no one else on the bus with her. It's just her and her big screen TV.
okay.
She's probably got a fabulous bus.
That's probably far more dangerous. Look what happened to what's his face? The SNL guy. What's his name?
What happened?
He got hit by a bus, didn't he? I mean, his bus got hit, rear-ended.
Who?
How long
Tracy,
did this happen?
What's his face? Tracy
Oh,
He was in a bus?
Tracy Morgan.
Yeah, Tracy Morgan. Yeah.
Is that what happened to
I thought
him?
he was in a car.
He was in they were in some kind of bus, some charter bus.
Oh, really?
And his bus got hit?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
He was
How
pretty
the heck did he
severely
get-
injured, right?
I think so. But he was inside the bus?
Yes.
How do you get injured inside a
Well,
bus?
he's not
It's
wearing
like
a
driving
seatbelt. I
tank.
think he got thrown around.
Whoa. I mean, it happens. I was just watching this video last night, and it was Kirk Hammond of Metallica talking about the day that the Metallica bus flipped over. Actually, this is a crazy story. I hate to take us on a tangent, but if you've never heard it, this is crazy. So there's a band member of Metallica named Cliff. God, I'm forgetting his last name. And they were getting on the Metallica tour bus. Have you guys heard this story?
Cliff Burton, yeah.
Cliff Burton. And he's getting on the Metallica tour bus, and he didn't like where he was going to have to sleep that night. So he went to Kirk Hammond, and he's like, let's draw cards, and whoever gets the better card gets to pick where they sleep. Actually, I don't know if he went to Kirk or if he went to the other guys in Metallica. And so they all drew cards, and Cliff drew an ace, and he pointed to Kirk Hammond. He's like, I want your bed. So Kirk Hammond's like, all right, fine. So Kirk Hammond goes to the front of the bus. Cliff goes to the back. And while they're all sleeping that night, all of a sudden, Kirk said the bus started shaking, and then it was just toppling over and over and over again. And when it's all over, he hears everyone screaming, but he doesn't hear Cliff. And they find Cliff was pinned underneath the bus. He was smashed by the bus.
Ew.
So that card basically ended his life, because otherwise it would have been Kirk Hammond who would have died. Isn't that wild?
Yeah, crazy. Did they make a song about it?
Unbelievable. What's
Did they
that?
do a song about it?
I think they did do a song about it. Yeah. It's been a
What
long
happened
time
to the
since I've
bus?
listened to Metallica.
Why'd it go off the road?
I don't know the whole story. I've heard that maybe the bus driver was drinking. And I don't think they ran into anything. I think he just ran the bus off the road.
Wow.
But I'm not actually sure of all the details. But geez, can you imagine like a card card
Dead
pull
man's
just saved your
hand.
life?
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Okay, look, let's just touch on this last story real quick before we jump into what we're into, because we're running long, of course. But let me just say, look, I know that I'm not the... Oh, wait, before we do this story, I totally forgot. We got to give a quick thanks to LinkedIn for supporting this episode. Whew, I almost missed it, and I don't want to miss this because, look, I know some of you out there, you got some Alex E. Heath level employees working at your establishments, and you need to get them out, and you need to get some real guys in there who are going to do the work that you know is going to make you money, and LinkedIn is the way to do that. Look, hiring isn't simple as putting an ad in the paper or posting to a job board. That's how you get an Alex E. Heath. If you're juggling hiring and everything it takes to grow your business, it's important that you reach the right candidates at the right time, and that's where LinkedIn comes in. I don't even know why LinkedIn advertises on shows because we all know LinkedIn is the place where people find jobs. And it's where people network, but it's also where recruiters are out there and they're looking for your skill sets. LinkedIn is like the ultimate search engine for qualified candidates, and they don't just allow people to search for your hard skills, but they can search for your soft skills as well. So if you're looking for someone, you can really fine tune exactly the type of person that you're looking for, and you'll be able to find top tier candidates on LinkedIn because everyone is using LinkedIn to find jobs, and that's what LinkedIn is for. So it's no wonder that a new person is hired every 8 seconds on LinkedIn. They have over 600 million members that are there to learn and grow as professionals and discover new job opportunities. So whether your ideal candidates excel at collaboration, work ethic, adaptability, or all of those things, LinkedIn does the legwork to match you to the most qualified candidates. With LinkedIn Jobs, you can pay what you want, and the first $50 is on them. Just visit linkedin.com/cultcast, linkedin.com/cultcast to get $50 off your first job post. Terms and conditions apply. Okay, back to what I was going to say. Look, I know I'm not the only one that sometimes thinks, what's Tim Cook using in his shower? What kind of technology is Tim Cook using in his shower? Am I right, Lewis?
Oh, man, like just almost every day that crosses
What's
my
he doing
mind.
in there? What's he doing in there besides wash his face and singing at the top of his lungs? Well, it turns out that Tim Cook has access to shower technology that you've never even heard of before. And I'm talking about top tech shower nozzles and things of that nature. So there's this company called Nebula, and they make Tim Cook's favorite shower head, okay? It's an eco-friendly shower head company adored by Tim Cook. They had this $500 shower head that I guess Tim Cook discovered at his local gym. Well, I don't know if it was at his local gym. Lewis doesn't seem to think that Tim Cook has a gym. I mean, he works out every day. We know that. So where's he going? He's not working out in his basement or in his garage. He's got to be going somewhere, Lewis.
I'm just shocked if he doesn't have his in-house gym. But
I mean, look, Tim Cook dresses modestly on stage, but when he's in that gym, it's cut-off shirts, headbands, and real short shorts. And if you've never seen his guns before, watch out, The Rock. That's all I got to say. Because Tim Cook, he's got double those gains. He's got gains for days. He's all about those gains. He's eating high protein. And so he's at his gym. He uses this new shower head. He loves it so much that he actually ends up investing in the company. So this is one of Tim Cook's, well, I guess one of the only investments that we know about that he's made. This investment has nothing to do with Apple whatsoever. I was watching this video on this Nebula shower head, and it actually looks pretty interesting. And of course, it's also completely laden with all this Silicon Valley marketing mumbo jumbo and horse shite slathered all over. Like they're talking about why their shower head is so special, but it actually does look pretty cool. I kind of want to try one. And they just released a $160 model. So I guess part of the problem with having a $500 shower head is that no one wants to buy it if they're not Tim Cook, because who wants to spend $500 on a shower head? So the company just launched a Kickstarter, which I'll link to if you guys want to check out the video and stuff, to this Nebula shower head, and they're dropping the price down to $160. And this shower head is interesting. So it bolts into your wall. They said the installation is really super simple, and you can adjust the level of the shower head up and down. You can also swivel it from side to side. But I guess the part that Tim Cook loves and the part that makes the shower head a favorite of fans is it has like these really fine micro particulate spray patterns. So it feels like you're being sprayed by more water than is actually being used. I actually had a shower head that was similar to this. Well, similar in idea, not in design. and it shot the streams of water into each other to create these more, for want of a better way to put it, satisfying spray patterns, satisfying droplets. And even though the spray pattern used not a lot of water, it felt like you were getting absolutely doused with water. It was really interesting. And actually, the shower head broke recently, and I was trying to rebuy it, but they don't sell it anymore. So now I just have a normal shower head, which doesn't make me feel like I'm getting nearly as high quality of a stream as I was before. And it's very sad. So if you are ready to shower, just like Tim Cook.
Is it supposed to be good?
Scrubbing.
Does it feel good, this shower?
I don't know. I've never used this shower head, but the one that I used felt wonderful.
Because the more
Really
water, the
high-quality
better,
spray.
usually, isn't it? You know, I mean, I've had
Right.
showers where because of the crummy plumbing in the house, where there was hardly any water coming out, and always, and also, does it solve the problem of it's suddenly going cold all of a sudden when, like when the kids?
I
wash
don't
the
think it
toilet?
solves that
Or
problem.
super hot.
That's a plumbing problem. I know because my plumber was just here the other day telling me about it. We're
It seems
basically best
counterintuitive that
friends
you
now.
get a satisfying shower out of a shower head that uses significantly less water.
Well, that's the magic of it, right? Is because there are so many water restrictions now, they have to ship these water or these shower heads with these flow restrictors because of all these water use rules put in place by all these municipalities. So how do you get a satisfying spray? Well, that's the magic of the Nebula, I guess, is that they figured out some way to adjust the spray pattern so that it's wider. And they said that it makes you feel much warmer when you're showering because it has much more broad coverage of your body.
God, yeah.
Like the water's coming down at like a cone. And it also is still somehow, now this is the impressive part, and this is the part that I'm curious to see if it works well, is you can create a really broad spray pattern quite easily, but then you lose the pressure and you can't wash the shampoo out of your hair. Well, for those of us that have,
Hair.
yeah. You guys would probably be okay. But I need a pretty strong spray to get all the shampoo out of my hair because I have this big, thick, luscious Fabio-esque carpet on my head. And so how do you manage to get a strong spray that's also wide but uses 45% less water than a normal shower head? Well, I don't know. That's the secret.
Well, I
isn't
just looked up reviews, and Gizmodo reviewed it and said it was absolutely wonderful. Wet,
really?
warm, and glorious.
it? Okay.
Loved it. This is from 2017.
That's from 2017. So that's the original Nebula that Tim Cook fell in love with.
Yeah.
And it just
See,
keeps
now
getting
I'm
better.
interested.
This is like version 3. Man, some of this marketing copy, though, is really droplets that are 4 times more precise than
Isn't
standard
it just,
showers.
it's Silicon Valley slime, man. It's the same kind of stuff you see in every Kickstarter video where you have some guy being overtly passionate about the product that he's speaking about and telling you about all the ways that it's different from current technology. So I don't know. I kind of want to try it though, honestly.
$160,
though.
man.
Yeah, it's a lot steep for a shower.
It is a pretty slick looking thing, though. I gotta say.
It's kind of cool that it adjusts up and down and left and right.
Yeah.
It looks cool too. Aesthetic is important in the
Yep.
shower head business,
Yes, indeed.
Okay, so there's that. Let's finish off the new segments. Let's jump right into what we're into because we're running real long, just like normal. We got about 45 minutes of pre-show banter, and we're on hour 4 now. So let's do our what we're into picks. Lewis, do you want to take us off first? You got something that is worthwhile that you want to promote to the people?
Another edition of TV shows I'm just getting caught up on.
Okay, that's what I got too. So this will be good. Our TV show edition.
I hope it's not the same show, and I hope you guys haven't talked about it. Maybe you have. I'm not sure.
What network is it on?
Netflix.
Oh boy,
Dangerous,
Oh boy. Okay.
dangerous territory.
Oh boy. Okay, what do you got?
It's called Mindhunter.
That's only 4
Is
years
that on the
old.
list?
No,
Have you
no.
guys talked about it 10 times?
No, we haven't. But when you started going, I was like, oh no, he's about to say it because mine starts with an too.
No
but
way.
No, yeah, but it's not that one.
Okay. Yeah, okay, so this is a crime thriller. It's set in the 70s, I think. It's about the FBI's serial crime or serial criminal investigations. You know, like when they're basically discovering what serial killers are.
I got this in my queue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's pretty. I'm only like 5 episodes into it, but that's like been in 2 or 3 days of intense exercise. It's a pretty great show. I mean, I love the way it looks. I love the way it's directed. I like the acting, and it's about these FBI guys, and they're sort of like, well, they go around the country teaching local police, different things about the ways that the FBI looks into crimes, and they get this idea to go and start interviewing serial killers. And this is like, I don't even think the term serial killer existed at that point. And they started interviewing this guy named Edmund Kemper, and he was this really, or I don't know if he's still alive, but he's a legitimate guy. A legitimate killer, high IQ. He was known as the co-ed killer. Killed a bunch of people in Santa Cruz. Oh. And they at the time that the FBI starts this, or this guy, this young FBI agent starts this interview with this. It's like they're keeping it totally on the down low. They don't want their supervisor to know about it. They're kind of doing it. He's kind of freelancing, kind of just doing it in his spare time. Like, hey, I got a Saturday off in Sacramento or wherever, and I'm going to go interview this guy. And his partner kind of thinks he's nuts. Like, why do you want to talk to this guy? Why are you talking to these degenerates and And anyway, then they start going, hey, this is actually, we're gaining some insight into the criminal mind. And one of the quotes in there is something like, how can you find the crazy people if you don't know how crazy works, or something like that, right?
That's true.
How can you outsmart crazy if you don't know how crazy works? I'm butchering that quote, but anyway, it's a pretty interesting show, and I'm really enjoying it. So there you go. That's what I'm into.
What was it called again?
It's called Mindhunter. And I think there's another show that has a similar title. I can't remember what it's called, but it's just, part of what's going on with all this, there's so many shows on TV. How does anybody watch them all?
Dude, there's so many.
And you haven't been plugged into Netflix for a while, and now, oh my god.
Oh, it's been years. Yeah.
It's just unbelievable how many shows there are. So, I don't know.
I have to say, though, I'm kind of impressed by the quality of the content that I'm seeing on Netflix right now. It's some of the best content that I've ever seen on Netflix, even including some of their original shows. Their production value is unbelievable. They really have gotten it together. And it's second to none. Maybe HBO creates content that's a little bit better than Netflix, but other than that, they create some of the best content that's out there right now.
Yeah, this is a Netflix, Netflix.
It's all Netflix originals now, isn't it? Although they also have some good third-party content.
Oh, yeah,
They've got all of Star Trek. Oh my gosh, Star Trek Discovery is all on there. Star Trek Deep Space Nine is on there. The Next Generation is on there. All my favorite Star Trek shows, are on there, and no one else has that stuff. They've got a ton of great television now on both original and third party on Netflix. I think I'm going to stick with them, honestly.
Yeah,
even though their prices have gone up kind of high, I think, for what you get.
Yeah, it's it's still, you still run into that thing of like, oh, you want to watch a movie and you go and you look and you can spend like an hour trying to find something.
Yeah.
Amazon Prime has a ton of great stuff too. It's
do they? I don't know, man. Every time I browse Amazon Prime, I'm like, I don't want to watch any of this stuff.
What streaming service is it that hardly has any content?
It's called Apple TV Plus. Boy, and that really becomes pretty clear when you start browsing Netflix and you see how much stuff they have on there now.
Oh yeah, it's not even,
and how sparse. Yeah,
it's not even. Jeez. It's not even. It's honestly, it's not even like the same kind of product.
Well, Netflix is also, they're starting to push out some international stuff real quick. Like they have this show that was just Dracula, for example, which just debuted in the UK, and like a week later they had it on Netflix here in the US. And I was trying to, I read really good reviews of it in the papers, and so I was trying to VPN into the the BBC iPlayer site to try to watch this show. But then I'm like, oh look, here it is on Netflix. No need.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
Trying to VPN in to get content you don't have access to. The FBI is definitely coming by your house this week for many reasons that we've already talked about.
Actually,
many problems.
I had a bunch of headaches because the VPN I use, the BBC blocking it now. So I had to go get a new one.
Oh, they wised up. Isn't that weird how there's all these regional restrictions, and if you live in one country, you can't watch shows from another Netflix area? It's so weird.
Well, it's like... I'm sorry. In fact, Netflix is going to be showing everywhere except in the US, Canada, and where was it? Mexico, I guess. All the Studio Ghibli films are coming to Netflix.
Oh.
Which I'd love to watch, because I have only seen half of them.
I've seen none of them. I'm not even sure what you're talking about. I'm Googling it right now. Studio Ghibli?
Yeah, it's the Japanese animation studio that made...
Oh, I've heard of them.
You've never seen Spirited Away?
I don't think I have, but I've heard people talk about this content.
Oh yeah, you got to
sure.
watch these. Your kids will love them. They are really, truly magical films.
Maybe you were the one telling me about it, actually, because I was having a conversation with somebody about these movies and stuff, and we were trying to figure out where we could watch them. And they are coming to Netflix, you said, but not to the U.S. Okay, well, my pick is also from Netflix, and my show that I started watching is called Messiah. Did you hear about that one, Lewis?
No.
I heard about it, yeah.
Boy. So I'll just tell you, I never know how to talk about shows because you don't want to get into the specific content, and I'm not a television reviewer, so I just talk about the premise of the show and what I like about the premise. Oh, well, made me feel so good. Okay, your turn.
Okay, well.
Okay, so
I have
Messiah.
heard about this.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the premise. It's really interesting. So, the premise is there is this Jesus type character that appears in the Middle East, and he seems like he's able to do things that people shouldn't be able to do. And so he starts to build this audience of people who follow him around because they think he's like the Christ or a prophet or something. And the brilliance of the show is they show you things that he does that look like they shouldn't be possible. But then they weave in that element of human doubt that makes you think, did he actually do what you saw him do? Or was it a trick? Did he set you up? Because the guy, I almost spoiled part of it. The guy is able to perform things that look like they're magic, but then when you see what kind of happened in the background, you're like, well, was that magic? Or did he have some elaborate team help him figure out how to perform this thing that makes him look like he is some type of spiritual being? And so the CIA in the US gets involved because they're trying to figure out who this guy is, and he's building up this large following in the Middle East, and they don't know if he's a terrorist and if he's trying to create unrest, like civil unrest in the U.S. and in other countries that he travels to. And so they start following him around, and some people think he's a fraud, but some people think that he's like an actual prophet type figure. And so you're kind of left in this state of flux the entire first season. You're not really sure what this guy is. What are his intentions? What does he want? What is he trying to accomplish? How is he able to pull off these really amazing feats that look like they are supernatural, but could just be parlor tricks? And the show is so well written and balanced and nuanced. And it's never too on the nose. You never see something and say, oh, okay, that's just unbelievable, or you're trying way too hard, or the script isn't written in a way that seems like it's believable. It's just an expertly written and well put together show. And I watched the entire first season in like 3 days. And it's funny, I juxtapose this to another show that I started watching on Netflix that is a sci-fi. Now, I love sci-fi, and there's not very much sci-fi that I've seen that I don't like. Hold on, I'm trying to unlock my phone so I can bring up the title of this show. And I'm behind my microphone, so every time I try to unlock it, the Face ID doesn't work. There we go. Okay. So I started watching this other show on Netflix called Another Life, which is about this alien craft that comes down to Earth, and the people of Earth are trying to figure out what it is and why it's there. And so they decide to try to travel to this craft's planet and interact with the beings that sent it there. So that kind of sounds like a cool premise, I thought. So I start watching this, and about 10 minutes into the first episode, I look over to my wife and she turns to me and she's like, "This is terrible." And I was like, that's exactly what I've been thinking for the last 10 minutes. This show is unbelievably bad. It's a Netflix original. The writing is not believable. It feels like it was written by someone in middle school. The acting is awful. They chose this cast of people that don't have, it doesn't feel like they have any acting skills. Like, it seems like they're all trying to act instead of just acting and playing believable parts. So it's interesting because here you have Messiah, that is this exquisite production that is so good right from episode 1. And then you have this other show. And I was just telling my wife, I'm like, let's just make it to episode 2 or 3 and see if it gets any better. Well, it doesn't. Spoiler alert. I should say episode 2 or 3. Did I say season 2 or 3? By episode 2 or 3, it gets even worse. It is such a friggin' turd. This show is one of the worst shows I've ever seen. And now I'm just kind of watching it because it's so bad, it's actually entertaining. And I'm like, how much worse can this get? So now I'm actually invested in it because it's just so bad.
Oh, my God. There's not enough time in the world for that.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, yeah. But it is entertaining just for all the wrong reasons. One other thing I wanted to promote, one other last Netflix show, since I'm enjoying all these Netflix shows, and I'll be quick on this one, is there's this show called End of the World Preppers. Have you guys heard about this show?
Heard of it.
It's like interviews with people who, for whatever reason, think that the world is going to be ending soon. And so basically they are preparing for the end of the world and gathering supplies and weapons. And the best part of it is I think they ask the people on the show this question: don't you think like you're living a little bit extremely? Like, doesn't this seem like an extreme way to live? And of course they all answer, well, I'm not being extreme. There are people who are extreme, but I'm not extreme. I'm just being practical, right? Like one guy in particular, he's like, look, I'm not extreme. I'm just trying to prepare my family in case there's an emergency of some kind, a natural disaster or something. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, that seems reasonable. Like I understand that. And then they cut to the scene where he is in his full army gear, camouflage army gear. He's crawling on his stomach through his grass, spying on his own family. And then he breaks into their house and he's like trying to run drills and make them grab all their gear and do these escape drills where they get out into their bug out vehicle and drive out to the river in the middle of the night and cover their boat in camouflage, and they're floating down the river in silence with his paddle, and he's got all his like guns and stuff because he's got to be prepared, and he's got to know that his family is ready for anything. And that's actually a common thread throughout this show is people who are forcing their family members to participate in this lifestyle with them. They got their kids like loading the guns and preparing like the buggy vehicles, which is like a bug out vehicle, is a vehicle they're going to use in case they need to get out of town quick, in case, like the shite has hit the fan. And the best part is hearing their reasons for why they've decided to become doomsday preppers. And they all have different reasons. Some people think that there's going to be a terrorist attack. One guy's reason was because he is concerned that all the icebergs in Greenland are melting, and he's like, it's only a matter of time before the entire United States is flooded. So he's moved to the desert with his wife, and they're living at a high elevation, trying to live off the trash of the land. So he spent like a year and a half just collecting trash, and now he's using the trash to build his house and the other parts of all the other buildings on his property, because he's like, look. When everything's said and done, the only thing we're going to have left to build with is trash. So you better get used to using trash now.
So he's living in some kind of Wall-E fantasy?
Well, actually, you know what? If you think about his logic, it actually makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Like, at the end of the world, all there is going to be left is trash. So you better learn how to use the trash now to build like your home and like your vehicle and everything. So I'm like, this guy's actually a genius. He's just ahead of his time. But that's the other show that I've been watching. It's oddly engaging because these people are living such bizarre lifestyles that are so different from my own. But like one of the guys said, he's like, it seems crazy, but who are you going to go to when the whole world falls apart? He's like, you're coming to me. And I was like, that's actually a good point. That's the guy you're going to go to, It's like Tremors. So those are my 3 shows. Leander, I hope I've given you enough time to come up with the last pick of the day.
All right. Well, I'm going to talk about this new vaporizer I bought. That's supposed to be the Apple of vaporizers. The vaporizer.
The Apple of vaporizers.
The Apple that the vaporizer that Apple would have made. It's
You're just using an Apple.
Yeah.
It's actually just an Apple. Yeah.
Hollowed out Apple.
It's from the 70s.
I wish it was, because this thing was expensive. It's actually the PAX 3. And PAX, they're sort of famous for making these vaporizers that only work with their own cartridges, which kind of puts a lot of people off, I think. But people do like them, people who use them. But this one, you can pack your own material in it, and it can be used. The reason I got it is because it can be used not only for dry herb vaporizing, but also
dry herbs.
Yeah, you know what that means,
Oregano?
right?
Oregano, yeah.
Turmeric, that kind of stuff. It can be
really
used.
brings out the flavor in my parsley.
It actually works amazingly well for the dry herb stuff. Amazing, really works really, really well. But I got it because it also works with dabs, right? So it has this like little tiny oven, this little tiny chamber that you can put this. And you know what dabs is? Like wax and shatter. So it's like the crack of pot. It's
So Leander's got naked pics on his phone of kids. He's stealing content, and now he's smoking crack. Okay, well, this will be his final episode as a free man, so I hope you guys enjoyed Leander's final
this is all
episode.
legal here in California.
Oh, that's right. It's legal in
It's
California,
all
so you're good.
legal. Even though actually when I was using it, I was kind of sneaking it because I felt like a criminal. But this stuff, yeah.
Sorry. Tell me more about your crack pipe.
The shatter dabs. It's like they run they run it through a solvent, and what comes out is like this sort of clear material that sometimes is like a bit waxy, sometimes it's much harder, like almost like clear toffee.
That does not sound healthy at all.
Well, actually, it is. No, it's much healthier than smoking because you're not getting into that burnt plant material. It just creates a vapor that's almost pure.
You're just getting the residue of the whatever carcinogenic
a little
solvent
bit of
they're
residue,
using.
but it's mostly THC. I mean, it's like 70 or 80% THC and terpenes and stuff like that. So, you only need a couple of puffs, and you're you're baked at it.
You're Alice in Wonderland, huh?
So, anyway, I've had a little bit of a mixed experience with it. Like it hasn't worked perfectly every single time, and then so I've been going on the forums, and there's all these Reddit threads dedicated to it, and there's actually like for all its Apple-like simplicity, it's actually not that simple. There's all these different levels you're supposed to have on it, and they recommend starting at a lower temperature and then increasing it, and you've got to be careful about how much you put in and putting it in properly and grinding it up properly and all this kind of stuff. So it has been a little bit complicated, and I haven't really it hasn't worked perfectly every single time. And the worst thing is the stupid interface on it, because it's got this like little a little circle of lights that's supposed to tell you what the thing's up to, and you can't see it in daylight. So so I had to go I took it out at the weekend, and I couldn't see what it was up to, and it wasn't working properly. So then I had to go and hide in a porta potty because it was a bit darker in there to be able to see what this thing was up to. So I really felt like a weird drug user then, I'm inside this porta potty, vaping on this thing,
hiding in a porta potty, trying to see your crack pipe. Yep.
But yeah, so but anyway, it looks kind of promising. I'm hoping to be able to figure it out. How to use it properly in the next few days.
Where did you find out about this thing?
I just walked into because I've been running my bike a lot, and my performance has been suffering a little bit because I think I've been smoking, right? I like to have a joint before I go out, and I'm racing up this hill, and my leg muscles are fine, but then I'm breathing hard, and it's definitely because of smoking.
Oh.
And last weekend, I went out on a Friday night. Me and my wife went to a party, and I had a whole bunch of cigarettes, and I had a hangover, and I went out the next day on my bike, and I'm wheezing away, and I'm like, this is just, murder, right? And if I stay off the cigarettes and depart for a couple of days, it completely cleans up, and I can breathe really strongly, so it's affecting my performance. I'm like, I can't smoke anymore. I gotta be done with this. So I was like, and then regular vaporizers make me cough like crazy. I don't know why. So I'd heard about this, and I thought I'll give it a shot. So I went to a local head shop, and they had one, and the guy was telling me about it. So I ended up buying it. It was kind of expensive, but I thought I'll give it a try. And actually the first couple of times it was great, fantastic.
I got a new idea for a show: Caney's drug den. How do you like that?
I could just review all the drugs.
You just imagine you're in a smoky room, low lights. There's just a smoke wafting through the air. Kenny's sitting in the corner. His eyes are real squinty, and he's just telling stories.
Bonus content.
I like it. I think that's some good bonus content right there. We should talk about that a little bit more after the show and see about turning that into a spin-off show. Okay, well, there you go. There's some new TV shows and the fanciest crack pipe we've ever featured on the show that you can check out. We'll, of course, include links to all of this illegal and questionably legal content in the show notes.
Color?
If you want to check it out. But I think we should go ahead and wrap it up there because we've been going for like 4.5 hours, and I'm sure LK, he's jonesing to get back to that little herb pipe. You know what I'm saying?
I gotta say, this explains a lot.
Yeah, I think so too. That's all the CultCast we have for you guys this week. But if you want to come learn about other illegal activities that we like, well, we're all on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. I'm at Erf on ERF1. Lander is at LKNey. Lewis is at Lewis Walls. This has been the CultCast, the best 30+ minute Apple and other things conversation you're going to hear all week long. New episodes of the CultCast come out every Thursday night. I want to thank everyone for listening, and we'll puff you guys next time.
Leander,
Who wants some Funyuns?
I gotta know what color you got, Leander. Did you go for rose gold?
No, gold. Yeah, sorry, yeah, it was gold. It was gold. Yeah.
You went for
Was
the
it rose gold?
That was the only one they had, so.
There's the guy with the sigh.
Yeah.
That's a little bit more spunky.
Wow. Yeah.
Oh, that's what I like. The David Lee Roth. The David Lewis Roth.
And you can't even see the kick I just did.
I could feel it come through the microphone. Did you just knock something over?
Oh, man. There goes the old bass guitar. Shouldn't leave it on a stand near my amazing roundhouse kick.
Well, you got real long legs, too, so
Yeah.
they reach out real far.
Yeah.
Nothing's safe.
Part of the problem.
Like they're like 1.5 feet long each, aren't they? So it's like anything within the 1.5 feet radius just gets toppled. Leander's here.
Oh, yeah. Hey, hello.
No El Dieter. no Leandita. Oh my!
What the hell just happened?
I'm sick.
Really?
So annoying.
What's wrong?
Got a cold or flu or something. Everyone at home's been sick. Nadine brought it back from her job at the school.
Oh, great! Thanks, Nadine.
I know, exactly. That's what I was thinking. And then Tracy was sick, and I was like, and then I just got it. She's been sick for like 4 days.
Oh,
It's horrible.
God, sorry.
Oh, God,
I think I'm getting a cold too. Actually, I just got over a cold. I think I'm getting another one because I live in a galldarn petri dish.
Yeah.
There's just little bacteria containers walking all over my house, and they're picking up stuff everywhere. They're crawling on their hands and knees everywhere, and then I get sick.
Yeah, right. That's how it works.
God. I mean, my youngest, well, she's not my youngest anymore, I guess. She got sick again, cold again, sniffles. And I was like, I better not get that. But now my throat's feeling all scratchy. I'm coughing again.
Sorry. Right. It's all in it.
God, yeah. You don't sound too bad, Leander.
Huh?
You don't sound too bad.
No, I don't think it's really hit hard yet.
You know what I hear will take care of a cold within 24 hours?
12-pack of Stella.
I was thinking of 24. Gotta be sure.
You're right. There's one, we almost got a pack of that down at Costco at the weekend. $18.
It's only $18?
I think so, yeah. It's a 24-pack, yeah, 18, 19 bucks.
If you would have taken a picture next to that big, beautiful 18-pack or whatever it was and sent me that, that would have been my favorite picture of the whole year. I would have framed that.
Okay, I'll do it. Next time in Costco.